Lift off, episode 2. Here we go again. Short one today. We are going to discuss three different topics. We basically here to try and bring our combined sort of 30 or 40 years in the industry to a broader audience and lay this down as a bit of a library of contents of our information. And today we're going to discuss overcoming sort of gym fears surrounding
Fears,
coming.
intimidations.
Yeah, gym intimidation, the problems of going into the gym if you don't particularly enjoy it as an environment. We'll briefly touch on back pain fixes and basic program design. I am Duncan McDade. I've had 17 years in the industry, and this is Paul Gleaser, who has had over 20 years in the industry. So we have done the intros. I'll leave it up to Paul to start on basic problems with gym etiquette and how to overcome any intimidation. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So this is a really big one. I have a lot of my clients are actually. I work with a lot of people personally in their own home environment, and a lot of them are, for that reason, really happy about the service that I provide because they're intimidated by gym environments. Now, there are so many benefits to stepping into the gym. You have no limitations when it comes to progressive overload. You have the ability to be able to, have a whole host of different resources at your fingertips. But there are still a whole bunch of intimidating factors associated with
Limitations.
limitations, without a doubt, and a lot of them can be, mental, emotional, when it comes to people stepping into that gym environment. And a couple of things that step into mind for me first is having a community of people that you do feel comfortable with when you're stepping into a gym, because that can be a challenging process for a lot of people. Timing as well,
So
funnily
going in
enough.
with a gym buddy.
Coming in with a gym buddy, being account that can help you to be accountable. It can help to just take the edge off when it comes to the intimidation aspect of stepping into a gym, and timing as well when it comes to being stepping into a gym. There's a lot of bros around at certain times of the day.
What times would they be?
In my own personal experience, it's been around that just like post school time. So it's like that 4 to 5 o'clock. I mean, I try and stay away from from the gym like it's the plague if I can
Yep.
at that
Busy,
time.
busy. So peak time, sort of 4, 5 until maybe 6:37 after work.
And a lot of us don't have the privilege of having flexible schedules to be able to do that, but it's just something to be able to be cognizant of.
Yeah, if you can avoid that, it's going to be a less intimidating environment. That being said, some of the friendliest people in the gym have the most muscle.
Oh, 100%. And the intimidation fact, it's so funny, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like you step into the gym and you're like, that guy looks bloody scary. And he's like the sweetest man on earth.
yeah, yeah, and that's something to be aware of is that actually people that have been in the gym a long time understand the what you're going through as a newbie, and most are fully aware of that and are really happy to help. And there's an etiquette within the gym, and when you've been around the gym for a long time, you understand that you share equipment, we share the space, and there's this sharing of information gathered, which they're more than happy to do if you were to ask questions in a sort of respectful manner. So that's also something that I feel like explaining to people so that they can get over that first hurdle uh, is um, is really key to sort of stepping through the door. The other thing for me is to understand like where it's come from. Like why would you be afraid of the gym? Right? Because any fear is built out of a lack of knowledge. So like if I'm, racist, it's usually because I haven't been around black people or the color that I particularly dislike very much, right? Spend time in that population, realize that they're exactly the same as you, and you become, much more knowledgeable and aware, and therefore the fear goes, right? So I think that using that same mantra, it's like, how can I discover more about this sort of populace of people or this environment in order to sort of allay some of those fears? And I think actually having a coach is a great way to do that, right? Like having somebody either online to set out a program for you so that you know what it is that you're going to go in and do, therefore you have a certain base of knowledge, or you've got an appointment with someone where you go into the gym, you can be in that safe, secure little bubble with them, and then they can transfer you out there onto your own as well. So that was probably my
Yeah, I
two
think
cents
that's
on how to overcome it. Understand, overcome.
I love it. And there's that exposure therapy aspect to what you were saying, having conversations with people, perhaps even having developing relationships with people that may look or appear less intimidating, and they can be the conduit to be able to introduce you to those that are more experienced, and you realize, these people are just really lovely, knowledgeable people. I mean, there are dickheads everywhere, right? But they don't. There's no correlation between the amount of muscle you have and the dickheadness you are, and I think to what you were saying about having a mentor or a coach write you a program or be with you in person, that's a confidence thing as well, to be able to arm you with the knowledge of being able to navigate the gym and be okay with surrounding yourself in that environment can be a really, really powerful thing.
That's it. And so post gym intimidation, once you're in the gym, I wanted to cover some basic program design today, or we wanted to cover some basic program design. Now, you've got your stock standard bodybuilding 5-day split, which everybody seems to come into the gym thinking that that's what they need to do, or that's what they need to get to, right? So that's chest, back, legs, arms, shoulders, all on separate days for 5 days in a row. My personal opinion is that that is an outdated means to an end. It does elicit results, has done for decades, so it's not useless, but I think that we can do it better. And I also think that sometimes as coaches we overcomplicate this side of things. So what I want, Paul, is to break down probably a 3-day a week program in the most basic sense. Like if you're intimidated to go to the gym, or let's say I'm your client, I'm intimidated to go to the gym in the first place, but I want to train 3 days a week. I'm going to go and do it. What would be my, starter program whereby, you've done the assessments, the biomechanics, all that side of things. But what are there any just like basic art of program design tools that you could give a client and go, hey, if you just pick an exercise here, here, and here, a reps game here, here, and here, rest period, whatever, go.
Cool. So if I were to, in the most simplistic manner, design a program for general populace 3 days a week, obviously no special population requirements needed. I like to look at training nowadays more in the kind of expression of movement as opposed to body parts. So I look at push, pull, versus rather than looking at chest, buys. So a 3-day split for me might look like horizontal push pull.
Yep. Which is
going to be, for example, it might be horizontal push pull might be bench press and bent over row. Or
so for anybody watching rather than listening, horizontal pull would be on a horizontal plane. So like if I've got my arms up in front of me, I'm pulling something back towards me, and vice versa for the push. Vertical is above head, I'm pulling down.
And that would be
Sorry, just to try and simplify it all.
Yeah, and you're absolutely spot on. Working on the horizontal plane, and then you're working on the vertical plane, which would be my second day, or the second day of programming, which would be vertical push pull. And an example of something like that might be overhead press,
Yep.
which is pushing up in a
Overhead.
vertical sense,
Yep.
and then lat pull down, which is pulling down in a vertical sense.
Yeah.
And then just to round it out and simplify it, let's just look at lower body
Yeah. Nice.
for your third day.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
Perfect. I wouldn't have any
I'll
issues
just
with
add
that
one.
line.
I'll just add one thing to that.
Yeah.
For those that are looking to implement balance when it comes to mobility, I always, and I've talked about this with you in the past, Duncan.
Yeah.
I always like to mobilize the opposing hemisphere to the body part that I'm training strength wise.
Yeah, I
So
love that.
if I'm training upper body and there's a natural rest period in that upper body, I will be then mobilizing my lower body. So what that might look like, but maybe if I'm doing once again bench press, I might want to do something along the lines of elevated pigeon position.
Yeah.
To
So
be
we're
able to
stretching the
mobilize.
glutes for those
Yeah.
that don't know what a pigeon position would look like. So you're going, I'm going to lift with the upper body, I'm going to mobilize or stretch the lower body together. So I'll do one exercise first, then the next exercise in what's called a superset.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is just a sensational way to program and to train. So yeah, I wouldn't add anything to that. Only my take on it would be that if you're doing 3 days, I quite like doing the full body version of what Paul's discussing. But like I think that everything you've described is a sensational tool to utilize as well.
And full body works just as well.
Yeah, yeah. There's like you're getting marginal differences in both depending on the individual and what they're wanting. So I just think that yeah, both of those work really really well, and you're going to target all body parts throughout the week or all movement patterns throughout the week, and that works out great.
Let's talk.
Yeah, so
Let's talk.
took that as a template and
Let's
you
talk
can
reps
start
and,
from
reps
there.
and sets.
Yeah, great. I mean, there aren't really, from what I can gather, what you're looking for actually is mechanical tension. So if you're starting out, the mechanical tension that you're wanting to elicit results is if I aim for 10 reps, I need to not be able to do 12 reps or 13 reps. Right? And that elicits the amount of mechanical tension or the amount of fatigue that I need in order to get the results that you want, i.e., muscle growth, strength gains, and sort of basic cardiovascular function. And so, yeah, I think rather than looking at reps, what I would look at is fatigue. So, particularly as you're starting out, grab a weight or set the machine up to do your weight and go until you're fatigued. You don't need to go until failure, and failure is when I couldn't do one more rep. But what you do need to do is you do need to get fatigue, and you do need to get comfortable with fatigue and with eliciting that. So what I see too many people doing at the start is getting the weight that was prescribed, the rep scheme that was prescribed, doing that and not doing any more, and then wondering why they don't find themselves with any results. And it's because you're not actually getting to the point of fatigue. You've gone too light.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And particularly for people that are not comfortable with exercise, they've not done sport growing up, like it can be difficult to really understand the difference between good pain and bad pain. Like how, when am I pushing too far? When am I going to create an injury? And that's the boundary that you need to nudge up against. And that's what you need to learn first is how hard can I go and how far can I push? So rather than think about how many reps I need to do, just think about how much I need to do to get to fatigue and then work backwards from there. So then you can start figuring out your weights and get into, I'm going to get to, I prefer doing the low reps, so like 5 reps and working on strength, or do I prefer doing high reps and working on hypertrophy, or do you just do a mix of both, which you can do?
And we'll just, and that's a good explanation. And you just touch on what those kind of rep ranges do represent, generally speaking. It's that kind of, like 3 to 6 rep range is kind of that strength rep range 4 to 6. And then I mean, look, there are different interpretations as far as I know on hypertrophy or hypertrophy, as some people in other parts of the world call it. But, that can be 8 to 12, but it can really go up to, geez, it can go up to 20, 25.
It seems to be these days that more and more we're seeing that muscle growth isn't tied into any specific rep range. You're going to elicit muscle growth as long as you get progressive overload and mechanical tension. So progressive overload being that I gradually get stronger, and mechanical tension, as we talked about, being basic fatigue throughout the workout. Whether you actually get muscle growth isn't necessarily dependent on that. There's other factors like genetics and diet, and rate of recovery, overall stimulus throughout the week. And so, that's why I say now more focus on getting that fatigue. And then in terms of like how many sets and reps, like I don't think you really need to go over 12 solid working sets.
Agreed.
Per workout. And so a set is once I've completed an exercise for a certain designated amount of reps, that's one set. And 12 working sets where I'm working hard will destroy most people. Myself included.
Yeah.
I don't need any more volume than that if I've got that mechanical tension right.
Yeah, spot on. This wasn't in what we discussed. I know, I'm deviating. I'm a deviator.
Mate, questions without notice. That's brutal.
But it is very related.
Okay. All right.
Well, when is it time for somebody to progress in weight?
Oh, as soon as they can.
Yeah. So
as soon as you can.
If I'm an everyday punter, I'm going to the gym and I'm doing my 8 to 12 reps of solid mechanical tension. When do I know it's time for me to be able to, if I'm doing 15 kilos on bench press? When do I know I'm ready to progress?
Yeah, if you've got an understanding of mechanical tension, you don't need to answer this question. It already answers itself. Mm-hmm. Because if I've set out as a trainer that you need to do 3 rounds of 10 reps, but you know that I've got 15 kilos and I get to 10 reps and I could do at least 3 more reps, it's time to go up in the weight. Yeah. That's when it's time to go up in the weight. But what I would encourage people to do is that if you find yourself in that position in the set and you haven't already got that, like don't waste that set. Go and do 15 reps.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah. Like knock it out and just get to that mechanical tension point. Don't stop at 10 reps just because that's what it says in the program. That's how you're going to get that progressive overload. It's just constantly asking yourself, you've got to that 10 reps, could I do a couple more reps? And like honestly, even if you're at the point of mechanical tension and you truly ask yourself this question, you've got that Goggins mindset, you probably can do a couple more reps.
Yeah.
So I'd touch on failure once or twice a week in 1 or 2 sets. The rest of the time I'd be nudging 1 or 2 reps under failure always. And so to succinctly answer your question, it's if I get to the end of my set and I can do more than 3 reps, more than what it is that is prescribed, then I would try and lift heavier weight the next time I did that exercise.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go as far as saying if I was prescribed 8 to 12 reps and I was able to complete 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps and I was able to complete those 12 reps
3 times
without fatiguing, and you just knew and this is what comes with experience, knowing within your heart of hearts that you had that in you, I would be like, okay, so let's see if I can do 8 next week. Maybe I can do 8 reps of the additional weight.
Yeah, and I'm all right if you go up in weight and you miss the rep scheme. Like if you go up in weight the next week and you only get 6 out, that's better than staying at the previous weight and doing 12 in my book, because you've now got the confidence to lift that weight again. And next week, you'll get that 8 to 12 out, and so that's progression still. And that's all I want, week on week, pending your your own energy levels. Like I want to see some level of progression, whether that's time under tension, reps achieved. It can be in terms of quality of reps, right? Like my technique was better.
Yeah.
That's still progress.
Yep,
So some
absolutely.
form of progress is what
And
you're aiming for.
and I think, to those of you who are listening to this and saying, well, this doesn't this doesn't appear to be like a hard science the way we're talking about this. It's because it isn't. Like there's so much involved in progressing. There's the ability for you to build like grit and strength, but then there's also the ability for you to build confidence, emotion in relation to actually expressing yourself in that new weight. So there is a little there's maths, but there's also drama associated with this in the sense that you need to be able to feel comfortable in progressing, and the only way that you're going to feel comfortable is by exposing yourself to those new weights.
Nice.
Okay, next off
Back
the
pain.
block.
Back pain.
Oh, cool.
So it bequeaths us to touch on different types of programming, right? So often, I think it's something like 85-90% of the population today is going to find themselves with some form of back pain. So it's a really common sort of trait when someone comes into the gym and sees me anyway, that they have some level of back pain. So how do we solve it? What are the main suggestions, and what are the underlying causes? So if I kicked it off, I would like to start with the underlying causes, and so they're always lifestyle factors. You're a product of your environment. So what is it in your environment that's triggering this back pain? Making some generalizations, we've got sedentary lifestyle, we've got poor quality of diet, we've got poor sleep patterns and poor sleep posture. We have then posture, and I'd probably put posture below all those other ones, because you've got as many people with good posture that have back pain as you do that have people have bad posture and have no back pain. So posture is important, and I will always look to solve some postural alignment issues if somebody presents with back pain, but it's not the be all and end all. So I'd far rather look at all the other environmental factors and solve those than I would do getting someone into a completely new posture. So those are probably my 5 key areas that I would look at before I design someone's program and try and fix those. Can you fix your sleep habits? Can you fix your hydration and nutrition? Can you fix your sleeping posture? And then your sedentary lifestyle. And lastly, then I would look at sort of designing a program that helped somebody improve their posture. But posture is such a nuanced thing. Yes, strength training can help, but more powerful than strength training is psychology, like how someone views themselves. Right? If I walk into an environment and I feel intimidated and shy, I automatically cover myself, right? Like I feel vulnerable. This is my most vulnerable part of my body. I start to hunch over, creates terrible posture.
Body language 101.
Can create pain. Yeah, absolutely. So can I find a way in which to get somebody to stand up prouder and feel better about themselves?
Positive self-talk. There's so many different, methods and approaches and strategies that you can take. And it's that top-down method as opposed to bottom-up.
Yeah, exactly.
As in our field, we are always looking bottom-up. And
because that's what we do. So it justifies our means a lot more. If I can give you a program that solves your back pain, for example, then I've justified the money that you've spent on me. So it bequeaths. I'm liking that word today. Us to
it works with your accent as well.
Thank you. To really validate that area of our expertise, but I actually think it sits right at the bottom of the totem pole of importance, is the actual way in which your muscles and bones and ligaments and tissues integrate with each other. Is really just a product of the environment that you put it in. So you've really got to have a look at the environment first. Then, because that's going to be, let's face it, someone might do training, max they're going to do is 5 times a week. well, for the rest of the 23 hours of that day and 24 hours of the other 2 days, like you need to be paying more attention to that. So it's really majoring in the minors,
Yep.
is to have to look at that structural imbalances.
And then I suppose there are some more manual kind of approaches that you can take, like breath work, that can have a positive impact on your mental state and your confidence and your emotional state, that can then have a positive impact on your posture. So,
Huge, huge. I'm glad you said breath work there. That's like, yeah, looking from the top down, that's one of the most important. That solves so many different issues. So I think that's a sensational point.
and that is it's not like you're delving into somebody's psychology there, but what you are doing is unraveling and untapping a resource that is a manual resource that opens up other windows for people to be able to do that. And I think looking at any field nowadays, let's look at medicine, for example. I mean, medicine is so compartmentalized. We have specialist, surgeons that operate only on a single part of your ankle.
Yeah,
And if you start looking at the human in a more holistic manner, and I think the world is opening itself up to this, and
actually.
gradually, and people in general, recipients that are asking for help, there are subsections that are really opening themselves up to the understanding that, you know, we don't live in a compartmentalized world. We can't operate and we can't thrive in a compartmentalized world. So if we can utilize tools from different disciplines to be able to assist, it's going to be a much more positive result for the end user.
100%. We're symbiotic in nature, and to treat us as an isolated sum of parts is ridiculous in its thinking.
Just doesn't
So,
make sense, does it?
nope, not in any way, shape, or form. We've evolved for hundreds of thousands of years into a very complex organism, and so to try and deconstruct that and simplify it is satisfying for the brain instantly. It's like a hit of cocaine. It's very satisfying straight away, but yeah, not going to be good for you long term.
No bueno. Let's touch on. Have we
Cool.
discussed everything that we were going to chat about? Because I had
We
a.
have, yeah. That's were we doing more questions without notice now, Paulie
We
G?
are. Yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
We are.
All
Yeah,
right,
that's what I do. I'm
put
here
me
to
on
throw
the spot.
curveballs at you,
You
Duncan.
are putting me on the spot.
Um, I want you to have to think about a question that a client has asked you, or somebody online has asked you this week. I'll start.
Oh, okay, good.
Give you time to think.
Are you? Yep. I was mildly
um,
shitting myself then.
yeah. So a client of mine who's just like like so heavily overwhelmed with work. He's like, I've created momentum. I am creating significant change with his lifestyle, with his weight, with so many different things. But he knows that this next week is going to be all encompassing time wise, nutrition wise. He just doesn't feel like he's had time to devote food prep, etc. And for me, it was like, okay, so we need to make food as simple as possible, and that might not mean perfect, but we want that 80-20 approach. And I was
Balance.
like, I'm happy with you eating canned, like he's got canned tuna, rice, those little rice buckets in his workplace. I told him to get
Right.
some frozen veggies that are in little steamer packets. And
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, like if you can surround your life for the next week or two by these types of things, you're like most of the way there. And it doesn't require any preparation. It requires a microwave. Yes, microwaves aren't perfect, but who is? And you stick it in the microwave, you take it out, you put a bunch of shit in a bowl, and you eat it. And it's really doesn't need to be that much harder than what I just described.
No, that's right. And look, I think two things come to mind, and one is tied to exactly what I was thinking when you asked me the question first, because I just had this conversation with the client. But the other is like, firstly, 1 week. like one day isn't the be all and end all, right? Like one hot day doesn't make a summer. Um, 1 week of less than ideal eating isn't going to destroy your diet
Definitely.
either way. There was a study I looked at recently where they looked at somebody going over their caloric expenditure for 3 days significantly, like it was 50% over, and then just going back to eating normal. Within a week, they were back to their normal blood
Yes.
markers and back to their normal body weight. So like a week, of you moderately going outside of your ideal range isn't gonna destroy anything either way. And any gym loss you get, well, if you didn't own it, if you lose it in a week, you didn't own any of those gains in the first place.
Amen.
So you need to work harder regardless. Now, the second point I thought was really I think is really like a key fundamental sort of tenet for me and in life, and something that I'd love to instill in most of my clients, which is this idea of busyness, this idea that I'm too busy to do this, right? Like I've got like a monster week coming up and therefore everything's going to go out the window because I'm too busy. I'm sorry, you're not too busy. You're just too disorganized. There's no amount of people that can tell me that they're too busy. Joe Rogan, who does 3 podcasts in a week and freaking flies all over the place to the UFC, is still getting in his workout and his ice baths. Now he's a millionaire, like maybe that's a bad example, but there's other people that work like 3 or 4 jobs and organize their lives to still be able to prioritize certain things. Now, in taking it in context of your client, he knows he's got a busy week coming up, so double down on your fucking organization.
Yeah.
That is what I would say. Like, there's no excuse. You can order pre-made meals in. You can prep your food. You can organize your sleep accordingly. You can get your little 20-minute workout rather than an hour. Like, yeah, there's so many different avenues in order to still succeed. That I don't find busy as it's not a word I ever want to hear coming out of my mouth or any of my clients.
No, I agree, and I think it's a story that we tell ourselves, and I think that's exactly why that's the benefit of having somebody there to guide you and to hold a mirror to you and actually ask you those questions. And it's like, are you too busy to do this, or are you just not prioritizing this part of your life right now?
Yeah, that's it. So there's balance to the equation. There's like 1 week, you're not going to destroy your either way, do the best you can, but then also that it's going to be sucky for this week, so why don't you prioritize your organization and see what you can do and what you can get to without destroying yourself and working off of 4 hours sleep.
Spot on. Like it, mate. Well, that was a really good over 30-minute podcast, our longest yet.
Is that right?
Yes.
Right.
In the enormous back catalogue of podcasts that we have.
Of the one other one. Nice. All right.
Well done,
We'll
mate.
wrap it up and let everyone get back on with their daily lives.
Very good. Thank you,
people
mate.
that
We'll
listen
see you
to it.
guys shortly.
Peace.